Qualifier number 1 for the Heroes International, everybody. We are in the first match, the first best of 3 series, as we got Inting for Ruby going up against the Vinland Raiders. All right, this is going to be good. So we already had one of the Korean qualifiers. The first team qualified, Tempest, will go to Miami and play at the Heroes International, and now in the first qualifier for Europe we're going to determine the first team that will join them. So if you're not really familiar with all of this, the Heroes International is an international tournament where we have Korean teams, North American teams and European teams meet in Miami to once again show or prove which region is the strongest. Europe. But yeah, so all jokes aside, we're gonna have 3 European teams, 3 North American teams, and 2 Korean teams fight for $11,000 in prize money, and all of that is gonna happen offline in Miami. You're more than welcome to check it out and visit if you live in the area, if you want to go for a bit of a trip. All the information you can find right down here. There is also a GoFundMe that's attached to all of this if you want to support this. Again, we didn't have a tournament like this ever since HTC was cancelled, so if you guys want to contribute a little bit and help us to make the tournament better, introduce more features, up the production level, get a couple of roaming cameras and what else there is there, include more casters, then you can do that. Every single donation is going to be met by an equal donation from our sponsors, which by the way are just Heroes of the Storm fans. Heroes of the Storm fans, so it's literally a community event from the community for the community. But as we're heading into our first game today, this is the first qualifier for Europe. So we currently are looking at a best of 3 series between Inting for Ruby and the Vinland Raiders. There's obviously a little bit of a change here because not all the players that you will usually see in European tournaments can make it to Miami. Some of them, they might not be able to make it because they have to work, they have some exams or whatever else is there. So there's always a little bit of a question of, okay, who can actually go, who's fighting it out, and that resulted in some teams partnering up, as for example did the Hardos and team, they reformed, washed up, and that's so to say who's who of the European scene here. But we have a couple of also familiar faces, and especially on the player level that's obviously the case, and it's going to be real interesting. Now we're starting with Rexa. The King of Dragonshire gets picked right at the start. Now for me personally, it was already a bit surprising that we saw Dragonshire as the opening map here in the first place, because it's traditionally not really a map that is getting picked a lot in the European games lately. But Rexa was always one of the strongest. Now again, Rexa wins the lane, the one-on-one at the top lane. A lot of people misunderstand that, and they think when I say this, I mean that Rexa is demolishing whoever he faces on the other side, but that's not really the case. The point is Rexa wins the lane because he will always be able to either get experience control of the top lane and push that lane in, or he will hold the objective because he can split Misha and himself. So nobody else can really do that in the same way. There's a couple of heroes that come close, but he is still the strongest in that particular aspect. But if you have good rotations against him and you gank up with other players, then obviously you can put a lot of pressure on him, but that also requires you to take a lot of resources away from other lanes on the map and really push them in there. Now we got Stukov together with that. We have Anduin, Sylvanas and Blaze now for Inting for Ruby. Chromie is getting banned. They're getting rid of all the annoying heroes. Lucio, Chromie, Genji. Next Shimada brother is also taken out. There's of course still a few globals that you could go for, so we could technically... well, Dehaka, honestly, now that Blaze has already been taken, highly unlikely, but Dehaka would have been a potential pick for Dragonshire too. Falstad is still up, so that's another one that could be taken. But I'm super excited for this. The Korean qualifier was already fantastic. There was a huge gap in skill between the top Korean teams and the lower ones, I gotta say that. I mean, some of these boys got absolutely ruffle stomped, but it was so cool to see some of the HGC players play again. See, yeah, all of these names from the days of old making an appearance once more and now qualifying for Miami. But for now, we got Jojo, we got Junkrat, and the final 2 picks for the blue team as we're heading into this. There will definitely be at least one team, in my opinion, that goes to Miami that we haven't seen offline yet. So for some of these players, it's going to be their first offline appearance. The Fish with Mirrodin. Yeah, no Uther today. And we got a Mind Talk on Lunara with Dookie. It's just too tempting. I can't go for his real nickname here. It's like, with the clan tag, it's just always too tempting. But yeah, so we got currently him on the last pick. It's a Tracer. So we have now a double Overwatch for the damage here as we're headed into game number 1, everybody. So yeah, the stage is set. Dragonshy, everybody. Game number 1 here at the European Qualifier. The first European Qualifier for the Heroes International. Inting for Ruby on the left side with Mindtalk. On Lunara, we get Bloodcool on Sylvanas, Galnagulna on Anduin, Baby Houdini on Blaze, and Fish on Muradin. To the right side of the map, the Vinland Raiders with Dookie on Junkrat, Galaxy on Jojo. Marlo is playing Tracer in game number 1. Sven on Raxa, the King of Dragonshire. And Vito is playing Stukov. So let the games begin. Which team is going to take a lead here? There's a couple of very, very strong teams to face off against later on in the tournament. And once that we're hitting the last 4, the round of 4, we're also transforming the bracket into a double elimination system. So it's a little bit of a mixed bracket. In the early rounds, there is no losers bracket, but once that we are connecting with the top 4 teams, once that we're moving into the semifinals, there is a losers bracket. So teams that lose a match still have a second chance to make it to the grand final and qualify for the main event in Miami. So we're really trying to make sure that only the best teams advance here and that nobody is just simply getting a lucky shot in or a lucky bracket. This way it's much better in that regard. And later matches will be best of 5s too, while we're starting with best of 3s here. Now, as I already said, it's going to be three teams from Europe and 3 teams from North America. We have 2 qualifiers and then a last chance qualifier where the best teams out of the first 2 qualifiers will play. And yeah, everybody has known about this for quite some time now already, which means that there's been a couple of scrims, people really trying to also make sure that they're getting proper teams together. Level 1 now, we got the Flare and we also got the Tracer rounds, so playing around with Vision quite a bit now. Camps are currently taken, and on the left side, Inting for Ruby is already working on this particular one, trying to go for the Bruiser camp first, whereas the opponent took the Siege Giant camp. Top lane, that's the one that we're definitely going to keep an eye on, because as I mentioned during the draft, Raxa is going to make this really annoying for whoever takes the lane against him. Unless, of course, they're doing exactly that and team up against the man with the mask. Already a jump, Stormbolt is missing though, and therefore no kill just yet. Sven still absolutely safe. So, there we go. Down to the bottom of the map. So our next little play, and top side the party continues. I love the name, by the way. The Vinland Raiders over here really reminds me also of the Vinlandia saga, one of the animes that I think has now confirmed that there's going to be a second season soon, which I'm very happy about, because honestly season number 1 was pretty badass. I liked that quite a lot, so that was a good one. Definitely one that came out of left field for me. Didn't expect that at all. It's also kind of wild if you have an anime about like Vikings and about Norsemen, and then everybody speaks Japanese. That was kind of funny. But yeah, the team name definitely reminds me of that. Now either way, Lunara is a little bit low, and Mindtalk needs to be very careful, because if Junkrat moves in or anybody else, then that could be a problem. But Galnagulna is now helping out. Still a bit of aggression against Lunara, but for now she's totally fine. We have Tracer, of course, zipping around the Nexus Mosquito, just buzzing around everybody else, trying to get a couple of easy hits in. Down to the bottom of the map now with the control of the second shrine. They're even threatening the Dragonite now, but Tracer is sitting in the middle and is making sure that nothing is happening just yet. But yeah, this is exactly the situation that I talked before. There's absolutely no chance for Baby Houdini on his own to hold the control of the objective and to also grab all of the experience in the long run. It's just impossible for him. First blood, Sylvanas down. Nicely done. That was actually pretty neat. So able to get the kill on Sylph and stealing the camp away. A bit of a lead here for the red team as they are pulling slightly ahead. And they're also retaking, thanks to Raxa, control of the top lane, of course. So Sven still sitting tight, and that leads to Dragonite number 1. Tracer zipping in and starting to take the mid lane down. The early level 7 talent helps them too, and we got the aspect of the beast on level 7. So already a few talent adjustments. Well, we have after the low blow on level 1, now Stukov moving in with a growing infestation. Blizzard's a sexual innuendo over here. So, yeah. That would definitely not happen a little bit later. But yeah, some of those talents named that Blizzard is dropping are questionable to say the least. Anyways, Dragon Knight already down, and so far a good opening for the Raiders. Nothing crazy yet, but that's definitely them off to a good start. Bit of structural damage, slightly inexperience. They got the early kill. Were able to use the talent advantage bit, already invaded some of the camps. And now the question is, of course, can they continue that momentum? But the blue team is fighting against it. Inting for Ruby is now moving in and starting to take down one of the night camps, stealing that away, basically repaying the favor from earlier. Baby Houdini up at the top. A little bit in trouble there for just a moment, but he's also still fine. Bot lane is, of course, the most important one, generally speaking. Tracer at the top goes down as she was diving for Baby Houdini, and he still survives. So he's able, with the towers, to get the kill on her. A bit too much confidence here for the Overwatch hero, and that's an easy kill right there. Okay. Marlow a little bit too confident. But now Sylvanas is helping out too. Moved straight towards the top, dealing with all of this. Level 10 abilities are super close right now. And we have the red team with a slight advantage in experience, now risking the move to the bot lane in order to get this particular camp. As already pointed out, bot lane is the most important one. The main reason is that there is in total 3 camps that travel through the top lane, so if you're able to take the structures down on this one, you can really set up a proper push with multiple camps against the opponent. Nice! Good kill against Lunara! This time Tracer diving in deep after the Blessed Shield was thrown out by Jojo and getting the kill together with Blondie. Well played, and now they can of course enhance this push even further. But there is some counter pressure up at the top. Thanks to Sylvanas, the blue team is also able to take one of the forts down. So they're essentially just trading structures here. But with that camp, they can push it a bit further, and that's exactly what they're currently doing. They push the camp in a bit deeper so that he can also start attacking the wall at the keep, but they're not really willing to go with it just yet. So the teams are trading. They're currently just trading some of their structures on the map. When we're talking about the damage numbers, we have now 16,000 by Rexa, who is doing some solid work. Went for the boars on level 10, as you would expect. And we got Haymaker again. So Playmaker for Muradin. Not going into the avatar here. Already trying to chase this out a bit. And yes, here's Lunara once more, trying to go for the slows. Big shove. Oh my god. Back into the corner. Goodbye, Muradin. And he's out of the fight for a few seconds. The battle at the bottom of the map still continues though, but Rexa isn't here, so the red team not really willing to fully commit to this one yet, which leads to a double shrine control for Inting for Ruby, but it's not going to result in the Dragon Knight since Rexa is taking over the top. But that push at the top made it really difficult for him, because now Sven doesn't have a retreat point anymore. He can't just fall back into the safety of the fort and the shots or the fountain. So that little push play was actually a really good one by Inting for Ruby. Makes it much, much harder for Rexa to play that role and dominate the top lane, because it's so much easier now to flank him and try and get a kill here. Definitely a pretty big deal at this point. But as is, we now have Tracer still moving around. Marlow is of course looking for that added damage and always eager to drop somebody low to commit to another bomb. Level 13 talents are available. Good shield also from Galaxy and Joanna as the Stormbolt was connecting. And Fish needs to be careful. We talked already about him using Playmaker on level 10, so there's no avatar to save his bot. And he gets caught and dropped. There's the kill, and Mindtalk is also looking like he's going to fall. So that's another kill. Marlow right away back to the shrine. They want this one. All the way up at the top, Sven, he needs to make sure that they're holding this a bit longer. Now that also Junkrat is joining, that might actually become a bit of a problem. The issue is that Rexa dies first, but the Dragon Knight has already been taken. So they were able to get the kill on Rexa, but they just couldn't get this done in time to prevent the Dragon Knight, which means that now we got the Raiders with the damage in the mid lane. It's a pretty awesome opening map, I gotta say. Keep in mind, this is round 1. This is the first round of the tournament, of the first qualifier for Europe, and already things are looking pretty awesome here. Now again guys, if you want to have additional information about the event, make sure that you check out heroesinternational.net. You can also check out the links in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will add everything there. But yeah, it's going to be pretty great. So even if you can't make it to Miami, you should probably save those dates. The action is going to happen on my Twitch channel, and we already confirmed Trixler Tim as one of the additional casters. And depending on the crowdfunding and other factors, we will likely also introduce a third caster to the event to make things even more interesting. There's a lot of stuff that we have planned, or that we at least are thinking about. But yeah, all of the information, as I already said, on the website. But for now, we got 4 kills to 2. Bit of a level lead now, though, for the Raiders. So they're actually starting to pull farther and farther ahead here. Inting for Ruby is definitely not out of this. And with levels 13 talents, they also got a lot of synergy here. If you are going for Mirrodin and you want to have the sustain, then heading into the Thunderburn and the combo with the healing static, that's really what brings this build together a bit more. Since in those big team fights, you have a self-sustain that you can rely upon. And that's something that he is definitely going to try and do here. But down to the bottom of the map, even more control over the mercenaries is now happening. Level 16 talents are also available. And that's, of course, a huge advantage. The worst actor in the world is again trying to feign his death. Nobody believed him ever since he was introduced to the game. Like, yeah, he's really a pretty shitty actor. So, it's bad. It's really bad. It's like, oh, look, I'm dead. And yeah, nobody ever said like, oh no, let's move away from him. So, 24,000 damage for Tracer. Get 20,000 for Blaze. It's actually kind of fascinating that he's the top damage dealer for the blue team. I mean, obviously he can just poke damage against Rexxar the entire time, but still. Mirrodin is dead again. Andon was trying to pull him out, but Mirrodin, he ate a couple too many donuts lately, and it was just too heavy. He couldn't be pulled out. Or he wasn't on time. It's one of the two. So yeah, either way. But at this point, we got nearly level 16 talents also for the blue team, so they will finally be able to fight back here. We got the Will of the Forsaken, and we got the Glyph of Faith now. But they lose another Dragonite, and guys, this is Dragonite number 3. The Raiders are doing a fantastic job, and yeah, this is getting more and more dangerous for Inting for Ruby. Now, this is a best of 3 series, so there will be potentially 2 more maps after this one. But at least on the opening map, I gotta give some credit to the Raiders, because they've been doing a great job bringing this together. And especially their map control and their play for the objective was great. Much, much better than what we've seen for Inting for Ruby here. By now, Rexxar also completed the Hunter-Gatherer, so that's great for him. A little bit more of a hit point pull for himself and Misha. And they're doing damage at the keep at the bottom of the map. As I said before, bot lane is the most important one here because of the number of mercenary camps. And they are therefore trying to take that bottom keep down as quickly as possible. Boars unleashed! Mirrodin jumping out once again. But they are all low and they all have to retreat here while they're getting poked at the same time by Junkrat. Yeah, Riptire is out. Big hit! And Mirrodin is dead again. Mirrodin? More Mirrodin. But yeah, so Mirrodin down. 3rd or 4th time by now. 6 kills to 3. And that's also the end of the keep at the bot lane. So I gotta say, they are crushing it here. And also another problem is really this big gap in experience. Earlier it was just half a level to a level, but by now it's 1.5 to 2 levels that we're talking about here, as we are slowly approaching level 20. And that's gonna make things really, really difficult. Once that you have Storm Talons, you can aim for that core with another objective, or at least drop another keep here. So camps are taken all over the place. And, well, with that, we have also, on the damage numbers... I mean, first of all, Mirrodin, as I said, died 3 times already. Rexxar died twice. We got 36,000 damage now from Chaser. Sylvanas has taken over the damage numbers on the side of the blue team with the 28k that she brings to the table. But, yeah, Inting for Ruby, they are in danger. Now, the one thing that really stood out for me in the Korean qualifiers, and again, if you haven't watched them yet, I would highly encourage you to go to my YouTube channel and check the videos out there, because it was super interesting to see those slight changes in meta, and also the way that they played the game. The one thing that always surprised there is that they had a lot of teams that might have had a rough mid-game, but when it came to late-game decisions, they murdered it. They absolutely murdered it. They came in, won a single team fight, and then just crushed the opponent and went straight for the core. And these core calls and a lot of the decision making that was made there was very impressive. So that's something that Inting for Ruby could still try to pull off here. And I'm not quite sure what Jojo is doing, more of a bait than anything, I suppose. But we are looking for another Dragonite that could very well be taken now. The camp at least has been claimed by Inting for Ruby. But Rexa is sitting in the middle. He wants the DK, he gets it. And now with level 20, it's either going to be a keep or the core that they're going to go for. So that's going to be the next thing. All the way up to the top, we currently have a camp also doing even more damage. There's nobody on the blue team that can deal with this. Anduin goes down, so he's eliminated. They're starting to move back in for the next hit. Already we're seeing Marlow and his boys orientating himself towards the bot lane for the reasons pointed out earlier. With Anduin down, now also Lunara in trouble. They of course smell blood in the water. They want to go for that core and try and take it down here. 44,000 damage by now by Tracer, and Marlow is just moving around and completely taking them apart here. He himself in a bit of trouble, but the heals are coming through. I'm not sure if they can end this yet though. So far the defenders are still keeping them low, and the Lunara poke in particular is causing some trouble here. But the core will take damage. The question is just how much. Already, oh, Jojo surviving! And Sylvanas is dead. Lunara dies too, and what looked like a successful defense is now falling apart completely. Game number 1 likely to go to the Raiders as they are going for it. So 10 kills to 3, a 1-0 lead in the best of 3 for the Raiders in the first game of the first qualifier for the Heroes International.
Before we head into game number 2, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet so you don't miss out on any future content here on Khaldor TV.
Infernal Shrines, map number 2. The Raiders are headed into the series. I actually had to restart the lobby quickly because there was a bit of an issue. But as I was actually saying, I'm super excited for the event in Miami because we already had an offline event earlier this year in February, but only one European team participated. Now, they won the tournament, but then again, there were also only NA teams that they had to go up against, and not all of them being like the top level North American players. As much as I like to banter around a little bit, I have to admit that this is going to be a very, very different beast now that we have the Koreans involved, now that a lot more North American top players are also going to show up there. But what I'm pretty much trying to say is that like the offline events is what makes this and any other esports amazing. Online tournaments are great, but they only go so far, and offline events are also a lot more fun. So if you have an international tournament like this, it's just going to be fantastic. Now, if you're going as well, then definitely make sure to say hi. If you guys are living in the area, if you're planning to make a stop in Miami for this, maybe even combine it with a bit of a vacation, whatever it is, it's going to be awesome. And the venue is open for an audience. So a small venue, but there's already plans to maybe run something like this again in the future. All depends a bit on how successful the event is, how people enjoy it, and how things go. But for now, let's focus a bit more on our first qualifier. Again, we're going to determine in this current first qualifier the first European team that qualifies for Miami and can go. Now, with the lead for the Raiders, they are off to a good start. We have Jojo as an early pick again. So they played her already on the first map, and now we're seeing her in Infernal Shrines, where she adds even more value thanks to the presence that she has on a shrine. Now, for Inting for Ruby, good start coming in with Blaze and with Hanzo, but of course they really need to focus on this one. And if they want to advance, win 2 in a row. Now, we are in the early rounds. And as I explained a bit earlier, in the early rounds of the tournament, there is no loser's bracket. If you lose early on in the tournament, then you are dropping out. And you have to wait for the second qualifier in order to see if you can maybe make it to Miami. The teams that make it into the Final Four, on the other hand, they have a little bit more wiggle room, because once that we are reaching the Final Four, once we're reaching the semifinals, there will be a loser's bracket. So the teams that go this far have another shot if they lose to make it to the grand final and qualify for the event. Now, we got a lot of wave clear here already right from the start for the Raiders with Johanna and Leoric. plus Sylvanas now. So you can go for a lot of different push strategies on this one. And with Sylvanas having also the potential of just side pushing, it's another one. Mindtalk is going for his Carrigan, and here he is, Uther. I joked about this during the first game's draft, that Fish had a chance to go for Uther and he didn't. But if you are in any way, shape or form familiar with Inting for Ruby, you know that that Fish loves to play Uther as a main tank. And still sticks with that strategy that most other teams have abandoned by now. And yep, that's going to be a Divine Shield on Carrigan. The Uther main tank. A lot of stuns, obviously, now too, especially with Blaze as your side laner. Falstad and Anna. Okay, Anna is someone that I did not expect on this one. But what's the final pick for Galne Gunnar? They need a main support. Unless, obviously, they're switching Uther over and getting another tank in, which I really don't think they're going to do. Usually when you see Uther picked by Inting for Ruby, it means that Fish is going for an Uther main tank. But yep, there it is. Tyrande in this particular lineup with the double support, Tyrande is also a lot safer, and it adds even more stuns. So it's a little bit more of a risk that they're taking with this maybe, but they also have to take some risks, and it's super annoying to deal with this, obviously. So guys, game number 2, the Raiders going up against Inting for Ruby. First round of the first qualifier for the Heroes International. Let's go. Second game in this best of 3 series, and Inting for Ruby with stuns, and a couple more stuns. The CC train that these guys can unleash is absolutely unreal. They got Mindtalk on Carrigan, Blood Cool on Hanzo, we got Galne Gunnar with Tyrande now, Baby Houdini on Blaze, and Fish is playing Uther. On the right side of the map, a lot of AoE. We got Sven on Leoric, we got Yuki on Falstad, Marlo on Sylvanas, Galaxy is playing Johanna again, and Vito is rocking Anna in game number 2 of the series. Now, normally when we're seeing Tyrande, there's always the concern that she is a bit too squishy, and if the opponent is able to jump on her, then she usually doesn't make it. Her vulnerability is really the lack of a proper escape tool, and also that she is pretty low on HP in general. She's pretty squishy. But then again, she offers a lot. She offers a lot of interrupt potential on certain maps, on the objective. She has vision, she has stuns, she has the Hunter's Mark. If you have a second support like they do, you can make up for some of her weaknesses, but the problem still exists if the opponent can collapse onto her. So you gotta really play well regarding your positioning if you have an Anna in the team. And in this case, Uther also needs to make sure that he helps out whenever she gets targeted. He has that added heal, they have those stuns. But if they run the momentum, then they can do a lot. They have so much CC, once that they're hitting the complete combo against a single target, that particular player can pretty much take the hands off the keyboard and stop trying to do anything, because it's just not happening. There's too many stuns there. Now, we'll see if that's going to be enough or not, but I'm pretty excited because they are playing aggressive. They're trying something. They're coming in and they're just saying, alright, let's go on, let's see what we can do with all of this. Yeah, because there is tons and tons of damage. I mean, the Hunter's Mark too. It's not only the stuns, but it's just the combos that come with it. Tyrande with the Hunter's Mark is going to make it so much more easier for anybody to get some damage in. But now that we're having the camps taken, it's the usual exchange on the left and right side with the Khazra camps. The last one is now taken by the Raiders down here at the bottom of the map. And we are going to prep for the first objective. Now, if you haven't watched the Korean matches, again, I talked about this already during those games, but the one thing that really surprised me when we were talking about macro and about different playstyles was that on Infernal Shrines in particular, oh, nice. Good combo, and there it is, kill number 1. Sylvanas is down, and Inting for Ruby with the first blood in the game. But as I was saying, one of the big differences in regards to playstyle between the Korean teams and what we're seeing normally from European teams was that on Infernal Shrines in particular, when you're watching European teams, what they normally focus on is that around the first objective, they are usually not really willing to fully engage and commit to a big team fight before they have level 7. So normally one of the heroes gets left on the side lane and they wait until they have level 7. They are willing to give up a few of the stacks towards the objective and just simply wait until they have a talent advantage, and then they jump into the battle and try to use that talent advantage to take the opponent down. The Korean teams haven't done any of this. They have started to brawl it immediately once that the shrine is up in 5 versus 5 fashion, not leaving anybody on these side lanes to soak the extra experience and really not looking for this level 7 talent lead. So that was something that I found extremely interesting, and I would love to see that also play out in Miami, because that's when you will really see metas clash a little bit and also different playstyles. Now, in this particular case, we're not going to have a battle on level 7 as it seems, because currently what the Raiders are doing is they're just simply using Sylvanas to push the bot lane. So it seems that they're willing to give something up at the top. Leo already has fallen there, and that Punisher is likely going to be taken by the Raiders. By Inting for Ruby. But the Raiders, they're getting counter value at the bottom of the map because they're simply saying, guys, we got Sylvanas. We just simply throw a couple of bodies on the bot lane and we're going to do damage, and then we'll see if Inting for Ruby can match that with the objective or not. So that's a pretty sweet move here, and so far it is working out. I mean, that's a lot of damage that they're doing here. Taking the fort already down to nearly 50% HP is pretty strong. That's a pretty strong push right here. Now at level 7 we get the boomerang, we get the stacks. Anna's coming in with the anti-healer at the same time against the double support, something that we should definitely note, and that might make a big difference. But with 2 kills to 0, Inting for Ruby has done well for themselves, but they now have to make sure that they're also doing damage up at the top lane, because as I said, they suffered a lot of damage bot side, where the fort is now down to 50% HP. Instead, we're seeing them moving into the middle. Sven is getting attacked here, is able to ghost away, but the attack at the top isn't done yet. They are doing a great job defending against the first Punisher though. But this is definitely something to watch. Oh, careful. Yeah, not only we have to watch out for something, Jojo also has to be careful. One stun, and they nearly take Galaxy down, but Houdini was a bit hesitant because he was so low. He wanted to avoid dying and had to retreat, but just look at how much damage is done by Inting for Ruby. They're already pinging on the fort, they're realizing that they have a chance to take it on, and they drop it. Nicely done. So they are ahead now. They have the 2 kills to 0, they destroy the fort, and they still hold on to the one at the bot lane. That's a good start for them. I said it in the first game, and I'm saying it again. This is a very close series from what we've seen so far. Very happy with our choice of games here in the first round of the tournament. And yeah, level 10 is close. Very close. So the blue team, can they force game number 3? Or will the Raiders turn it, take the 2-0 lead, and move on to the next round? Level 10 abilities are ready. You got the Starfall in, the Divine Shield. No surprises here. The Ultralisk for Kerrigan. We got the Entomb. Could potentially also combo that off with the Mighty Gust, of course. Falstad, only global in the game, so they can use him on that side lane, not only to protect their own keeps, but maybe also to push the opponent a bit and see what they can do there. Yeah, attacks soon to come. One Hatchet Propulsion. Missing! No Entomb used for him either. Obviously, he still has his bunker, so it would probably only result in a cooldown trade, and Fawcett is not with them, so they would have to fly him in too. We got 10,000 damage, 11,000 damage for Sylvanas. But they are looking for those stuns. One stun, and yeah, Galaxy able to get the shield out. But you can see how dangerous this gets. If you are a bit late on that shield, you lose Johanna. So yeah, it's tricky. You have to bring the fight, you have to dodge out on those stuns, and once you have momentum going for you, that's a different story. But there's always the risk that Inting for Ruby just does a great job coordinating on a single target and then moves on to the next. But here's the counter plays. Will Cool also low with Hanzo. That gets saved. That's the beauty of having a double support, of course, with Uther doubling as a tank here. They got that heal power. Baby Houdini, he's in a bit of trouble. Has to bunker up. Buys himself some time, but are they dropping they don't have Bless Shield, they can't drop it. But there's the Gust into the corner, they really want this one. And instead it turns on the bird! Falstad is down, now they go for Sven and they get the kill on Leo too. A 2-for-1 trade in favor of Inting for Ruby as the next shrine is about to spawn. Nicely done. I mean, the gust into the corner, they really wanted to force this, but then the turnaround as Hanzo drops the arrow first, Starfall gets unleashed, and they are able to take Falstad down, and then shortly afterwards, Leo falls too. So yes, well done here. Level 13 for both of the teams, just around the corner now, with more pressure at the bottom of the map, thanks to the camp that they're escorting in. We have a 5 versus 5 back up, and the ults are slowly coming back in. Anna went straight into the smelling salts here. So that is an interesting one that should definitely help with the CC train that we're seeing from Inting for Ruby. But with the Hunter's Mark also in play, the question is still, will they be able to save the target? So definitely keep an eye out for that. But Anna has a lot of potential to ruin the place here. But as you can tell, Sylvanas dies way too fast. Now another attempt to go for Jojo. Super low, gets barely saved because Falstad was able to gust them away. But the battle for the shrine itself is more or less over as Sylvanas falls and Inting for Ruby takes control. So, nicely done. Yeah, that's actually pretty sweet for them. They take the second objective. They also saved the bot lane. Now, they're still trying to go for a gank on Blaze, which hasn't really worked. But it seems that instead of trying to defend their own fort at the bottom of the map, which has only a few hit points left anyways, they are more eager to move now into the middle and maybe take out the second one here. So they're going to try and pull that off. Bottom fort is still standing. Nobody on the red team escorted those minions and take it. And instead, it's Jojo that dies this time. Punisher wanted a piece of the action too, and he got it. And Inting for Ruby with a kill on Leo destroys the entire front line and the fort as well. So this is looking fantastic. Game number 1, it definitely didn't work out for them. They lost way too much, way too early. They didn't take a single Dragonite on Dragonshire. And at this point, they're just bringing the fight. 7 kills to 1, taking about a 1 level lead. The aggressive combo that they're playing is completely paying off for them. And the Raiders, they're struggling. They definitely are having problems now. They are getting snowballed here, and they're losing control of the map as 2 of their forts are destroyed. Another one is down to 50% HP. So it is starting to become a real concern here for them. Now, we have level 16 soon for Inting for Ruby. One of the main reasons why they weren't eager to fight in the first place here was that they were well aware of it. But now they're engaging as they think that they have a shot, and they take it. They go for Marlow again. Blessed Shield got thrown out, but it was too late to save Sylvanas. So she's dead too. And that is another fort that they're taking. Guys, this is pretty sexy here. Inting for Ruby, with a very stun-heavy composition, is playing it exactly the way that they need to. They're getting 1 kill after another. They're looking at 8 kills to 1. An early level 16 compared to what we're seeing from the Raiders. And they are taking 1 camp after another. I suppose that they will take both of the remaining Khazra camps that we have here. We got on level 60 now also the painful spikes. And they are very painful. Jojo can tell you a story or two about that, because Galaxy is a prime target for these combos. Is able to move away once again, but things are definitely very difficult for the red team. With the Khazras, the fort is very low. Kerrigan still looking for another combo, couldn't unleash any just yet, but also just waiting in the wings is Baby Houdini, who wants another jet propulsion, and they're starting to go for Jojo, has to activate the Iron Skin once again. They're trying to push this back. Good damage here. 61 stacks now for Falstad, so he's definitely bringing the pain too. The fort is still in place, so they've been able to hold this for a very long time. And they are taking a camp, so it's 16 versus 16. Anna with the active reload now. But they are going for the battle again, and there's the Divine Shield. Hanzo's arrow, and it seems like Marlow might die again. Gets the nano boost though. Jojo is low as well. Everybody's low. They steal the camp. They got the camp, but everybody's about to die. Falstad is the first one to fall, and it could be another kill if they can just get close enough. Anna has no chance. Granny just doesn't run fast enough in her old days. And that is a double kill now for Inting for Ruby, with Kerrigan absolutely murdering it here. They go down to the bottom of the map. First of all, Leo is running away from Tyrande. And yep, that seems to be the end of the bottom fort. The rest of the blue team is now moving in to assist. So another fort falls. And as the objective spawns, Blaze is already at it, moving in to take the stacks and help them to another Punisher that will then be used in the top lane. Leo activates the straight. Dies once again. That's the 4th time now that he bites the dust. And it just seems that there's no way for the Raiders. Absolutely none. Inting for Ruby has full control over this game at this point in time. What the Raiders need is a big teamfight victory. They really need Inting for Ruby to overstep a bit and make some huge mistake that they can capitalize on. But now that we already have level 19 for the blue team, it seems that if they can maybe even delay I mean, honestly, there is a world in which they just take 39 of the stacks, don't go for it right now, and just try for experience. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're waiting this out a little bit longer. I guess not long enough. Unwilling to fall back and wait for level 20. So they're going to push through the top lane. Hope to get as much experience as they can in the process, but they are mainly focusing onto the top lane. There's nobody else on any of the side lanes. Now down to the bottom of the map, Falstad, he still wants to get some XP for the team and also take the first structure down, but they of course have high hopes to take a keep. So they're immediately moving for it. Level 20, as you can tell, is super close already. The top camp is now also moving in together with all of this. If they can get a kill here, then Inting for Ruby is going to aim for the core, and Sylvanas dies again. Sylvanas is down. Falstad is on the run. Leo is on the run. Oh, brutal. Alles rennet, rettet, flüchtet. Takel ist die Nacht errichtet. A little bit of culture into this one. And that is a move for core. Level 20 is there. Everybody is on the move back. A desperate attempt by the Raiders to somehow save the day, but it seems like it's a forlorn hope. This is not happening. Big victory here for Inting for Ruby. They are not eliminated from the tournament yet. They move on to the 3rd map against the Raiders as we are headed for the final map in this best of 3 series. Nicely done by Inting for Ruby with a victory on Infernal Shrines. Cursolo! Game number 3. Here we go, everybody. The Raiders against Inting for Ruby. And somehow my chat has turned into a big discussion about poems, because a little bit of German that I threw in there towards the end is part of The Bell by Schiller, that for some reason I still remember, and then somehow we drifted off into a discussion of poems that people still remember. And there's a couple of things, honestly there's just stuff that gets like ingrained in your brain and you can never get rid of it. We had another poem that we discussed. I don't know how it translates into English, if it's just like a literal translation or if there's another name for it, but Die Bürgschaft is another one, and we discussed that in school when I was a kid, and we never had to learn it. We never had to learn it by heart, but to the day, the first 9 to 10 verses I can literally recite, and it's just one of those things. Yeah, there's certain things from your childhood that you just never really forget, and so all of a sudden we brought culture into the stream too. But either way, when it comes to heroes, we are in game number 3 now, and yeah, we're going the distance on this one. So best of 3 series with the final map now coming up, and yeah, let's have a look of what we are getting here. Hogger as the first pick. Okay. Yeah, poems were big in general in German. I mean, there's a lot of things. Zauberlehrling. I don't know all of the translations for the English versions of it, but I mean, a lot of them. What is it? Wizard's Apprentice, Magician's Apprentice. Like, I don't even know what that is. But yeah, there's like thousands of them. So yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know if that is as much of a focus in other countries' education as it is in Germany, but in German education, poems played a very big role in high school, and a lot of them you had to learn by heart as well. So it was kind of interesting. And I don't know if that is just a German thing, if there's a European thing, or if it's just across the world, but I would assume that different countries have different emphasis on certain things. But yeah, I mean, either way, Dehaka and Vala are taken, so we already have some globals here on Cursed Hollow. And with Vala is going to be interesting because you have a couple of different approaches here regarding her build. It's hammer time, by the way, so they're coming in with a hammer again. Hogger, Sergeant Hammer, and Brightwing. Uther, by the way, banned. It always happens eventually against Inting for Ruby that nobody wants to go up against this Uther main tank double support, and they're banning Zarya too, so they make it a bit less attractive for the Vala team. Oh, that's a McDonald's strategy. They're still doing this, by the way. I mean, with Inting for Ruby again going for the McDonald's strategy, they have to have had some success with that. And it surprises me, because initially when Fnatic played the McDonald's strategy and eventually won a mid-season brawl because of it, you still had tower ammunition. So many things were different back then. But they apparently believe that even now you can get enough value out of that strategy. Vikings against them. Oh, that's a highlight. Okay, Cursed Hollow, this is going to be super interesting, guys. Sergeant Hammer and Vikings against the McDonald's strategy. Yeah, that's going to be wild. So this should be a second support. Traditionally, this would be a second support now. But they are hesitating. So that already means that they are most likely going to deviate away from it a little bit. Now that they've seen the Vikings. And that kind of makes this interesting. No, they go for it. They go for Stukov. So the second support is there. Alright, so they go full Fnatic on this one. Cursed Hollow, everybody. Let's go into the map. Game number 3 is coming up. The winner will advance to the next round of the tournament, whereas the loser is out of qualifier number 1 for the Heroes International. Game number 3, Inting against the Raiders. On the left side, Mindhawk on Stukov, Bloodcool on Vala, Galnagul now with Auriel, Baby Houdini on Dehaka, and the Fish is playing Chen. McDonald's strategy from Inting for Ruby, a little bit of a cheesy one here, as the Raiders are starting things off with Marlo on Sergeant Hammer, with Uki on Hogger, Sven on the Vikings. That's going to be super interesting. Galaxy and Imperius, and Brightwing played by Vito. And apparently there's still a couple of people that don't know what the McDonald's strategy is, so let's talk about this real quickly. It's a strategy initially developed by Fnatic. Again, back when times were a little bit different, because you got a lot more experience when you destroyed structures and towers had ammunition. Keep those two facts in mind, because they are important. So what you pretty much do is, you are just going for your opponent's structures, you're focusing on a lane, and you're burning it down as best you can. It's usually played with like one tank that can soak up a lot of damage. That's traditionally Chen, and then a double support behind it, and you have one damage dealer, hyper carry, that is normally Vala. So exactly what they're running here, more or less, with Dehaka or another AoE side laner that is very good at double soaking lanes to give you experience. And the whole idea is you will simply just out-sustain your opponent on a single lane and murder them. Exactly the way that they're doing here right now. So Hogger is dead in this case, and they're just going to push this. Pushing into Sergeant Hammer is already going to make this a little bit more difficult. Now, the reason why this is called the McDonald's strategy, and normally it is executed on Sky Temple, is because Fnatic had scrim blocks back then, and they were living in a team house in Poland at the time, and they had a McDonald's nearby. And that McDonald's would close at a certain time. Don't really remember if it was 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, doesn't really matter. But they had a scrim block scheduled against another top team, and they realized all of a sudden that the McDonald's was about to close, that they were still drafting against an opponent, but they were super hungry and they wanted to go to McDonald's and get themselves some food. So they decided to just go for a YOLO strategy and a full-on cheese, and they said like, well, either we're going to lose within 5 minutes or we're going to win the game super quickly. Either way, we're going to be done in time to make it to the McDonald's. So that's exactly what they did on Sky Temple. They moved with that 4-man onto the lane. They had the Haka, Wooby back then, double soak on the side lane, and they murdered the first fort right away because of all the experience that you would get when you were destroying structures. They made it to level 10. When they had level 10 and a talent advantage over the opponent's team, they immediately moved on to the boss, took the boss. The opponent couldn't contest it because they didn't have heroic abilities just yet, and from there they just snowballed through the bot lane, through the keep, straight for the core and ended it. So that was the McDonald's strategy, and it actually won them like a key match against Dignitas in one of the mid-season brawls, where they then took the entire event. So that's something that Inting for Ruby is currently trying to pull off. And it doesn't really work in the same way anymore as it did in the past, for the reasons that I already pointed out. But it can still be super annoying to go up against. Now, I think that the choice to go into the Vikings, on the other hand, made this real interesting, because now the Raiders have a good thing that they can use. There's two aspects here. First of all, you have Sergeant Hammer. So that 4-man that is being used by the blue team is already... It's a lot harder for them to really go for these structures, because pushing into Sergeant Hammer is a bit of a pain in the ass. The second part is that the Vikings can really control the map quite significantly. So that's big. And we'll see how that works out in the long run. I kind of like that Inting for Ruby is always a team that is willing to do shit like this, but if it's going to be successful or not, that's a very, very different question, given the fact that times have changed so significantly. You don't get these big chunks of experience anymore for taking down structures, and you don't have tower and fort ammunition anymore either. So yeah, there's a lot that comes into play here. We got an arrow build for Vala, a lot of stacks, and Vala can dish out tons and tons of damage with this later on. And it's also very strong, even if you don't go into the level 7, when you are going for bosses. You can still do a lot with that. So we're going to keep an eye on all of this. Sergeant Hammer now with the Hover Siege mode, which is still the main talent for her to take. The siege tactics are here. Slight advantage for the Raiders in experience, and Vala is now going into the Frost Shot on level 7. But they're still pressuring this. Ah, nice hit against Mindtalk. The double support, they're trying to keep him alive. Good heals already. And they are able to keep him in place. So no kill against Stukov. Instead, Dehaka is going for the Vikings. But this is a pretty wild one. I really like the way this is currently playing out, because they are fighting completely on eye level, but finally the attack against Stukov is successful. Sergeant Hammer with the final hit, so they take the support down, and this is, as you can imagine, where the entire strategy is starting to struggle. Auriel is dead, and that's both supports gone. First tribute will be taken by the Raiders, and now they are a level ahead. And, well, that's of course the downside. If you go for a bit of a cheesy strategy like this and it doesn't work out, then you are oftentimes likely to fall behind and get snowballed. And with the Vikings also locking in more and more experience for the Raiders, this could definitely be now the fate of Inting for Ruby. We had a couple of really wild cheeses in general. And even the Koreans, some of the Korean teams went for some interesting cheesy strategies. There was a Chogal cheese on Sky Temple that nearly worked. I think they got the core down to 7%. If you haven't watched that yet, you should have a look at the videos that are currently on the YouTube channel. Maybe you have to scroll a page or two back, but it should be in the title, something around Chogal. And that was kind of crazy. I haven't seen that particular one on Sky Temple before, but it was pretty fun. So there are still some cheeses in the game that you can every now and then use. Another one is, of course, that backdoor cheese where you're just playing around Morales with the Medivac. You're getting Tyrael into the mix too, and you're trying to take structures down. Talking about taking things down, they're going for Chen again. Yeah, they have level 10, the opponent doesn't. This is rough. There's a heroic ability, 1.5 level lead, you have a boss already taken, and this is just painful. Balog went into the explosive attacks for even more lane control and is level 1. They have Aegis now, we got Vala with the 22 stacks, but it's nasty. It's going to be very, very difficult for the blue team to get back into this. Not impossible, but definitely difficult. And with Sergeant Hammer, of course, they are pushing this even further topside now. They already dropped that fort super early, and now they are trying to at least, at a minimum, break through that wall. At a minimum, break through the wall here. But, yep, there it is. So, right now, we got the first hits coming. Boss is getting damage in on the key very early in the game. We're still at the 7-minute mark only, so it takes a little bit of damage, but they aren't able to take it down or anything. And, well, here in the middle of the map, we currently have still camps claimed. 3 kills to 1, big lead in experience, could lead to a level 13 talent advantage as well. And they're looking really good with this. But of course, what could the blue team do now? I mean, they got Vala, so there's a lot of damage that can potentially come from her. We got the top cake plays too. They want the boss here, so they're giving up 1 tribute in order to take this boss. I'm always a little bit on the fence when you're on a map like this, going into Frost Shot. Personally, I really like Frost Shot a lot, but the question I always have, if you're playing the map, does that help you? Is Vala burning down bosses and you easily getting that in any way, shape or form worth it if you're focusing a bit more on macro play? And the answer is probably no, but I would really like to see it tested once or twice. Also an adjustment here with the tactical mine deployment that we got for Sergeant Hammer. Another push in the mid lane could result in the Raiders taking fort number 2, but they are going to trade it for the one at the bottom of the map. So they are still trying to pressure through this. If this is going to be a race, they're going to lose it. Boss or no boss, I don't give a shit. If you have Sergeant Hammer against you and the Vikings plus a camp barreling down on your mid lane, then you are going to run into trouble. That level 13 tile makes it, of course, a very unattractive battle for Inting for Ruby. They are headed back, but they're too late. This timing is not good for them. They are too late. They are taking way too much damage on that keep. And the problem is that they can't take the fight either. So, yeah, they're generally speaking in a bad spot. It's not like they can make a perfect decision here and all of a sudden the game is instantly turned around. It's not how this works. So, yeah, their initial idea didn't work out as intended. The Raiders had very, very good counter picks too, so that make it difficult for them. And once they lose momentum, it's a tricky spot to be in. Fighting back from that isn't easy. They got the level 13 on the other hand now, and that gives us also the virulent reaction, so an opportunity to take that fight. It's also a fight that they have to take, because the Raiders have 2 tributes, meaning this would be a curse, and they can't afford that to happen. If they get cursed here, it's a big problem, but they take it. Can they get a kill now too? That's the bigger question. Oh, they are saving baby Houdini. Hogga is still pogging, but they can't do anything about that. They were able to save the tribute. That was important. So no curse against them. And let's not forget, if they get the next one as well, that's a curse against the Raiders. And maybe that is what they need here. But look at that experience difference. Yeah, that's tricky. 16 is so close now. 16 is really close. More damage to the next keep. Eric is getting attacked here. By the way, this boss only a minute on the timer, so with level 16 there's definitely an opportunity here for the Raiders. And talk about opportunities, they're looking for one at the bot lane. They go for baby Houdini, and goodbye to Haka. Dinosaur is dead again, no chance for him, and another fort falls. The final outer structure has now been destroyed. And with level 16, the large and in charge is taken by Olaf. Which means that he can now participate in these team fights a lot more aggressively, because those stuns are quite helpful. Oh, beautiful! Nice kill. Oriel instantly dead. They get the kill on Stukov too. That was very well done, and this might just be the beginning of the end. The curse is in. They go for key, but look at this. Look at that jump there. They start to move in heavily to isolate Oriel. They get a kill against her, and then they go for Stukov and drop him too. So that's the double kill, and now they're moving for the core. This is looking fantastic. A 3-level lead, 5 kills ahead. The Raiders, everybody. They seem to be able to pull this off here. The top keep is likely to fall too. Chen was trying to take the hammer down, couldn't make it work. But the death timers are low, so they're coming back to defend again. Maybe they can hold this, but they are losing, they're just losing ground everywhere. Even if they can't end the game here, with all of the keeps now being attacked and likely to fall, this should still mark the beginning of the end. Top side, the keep is already about to be dropped, and the same is happening at the bottom of the map. Now the core is the only remaining structure pretty much, and with the Haka falling again, that's an easy attack. You have 4 levels ahead. They are 4 levels ahead, and that is a game. Game and match. The Raiders, they are moving on to the next round of the first qualifier for the Heroes International. GG, well played.